What happens when a totally routine hearing just goes off the rails and turns into a massive confrontation? We're about to look at a case where a judge's actions raised some really serious questions about impartiality and, well, the very foundations of our justice system. So let's get into it. Okay, so picture this. It's November 16th, 2023, in Judge Diego Madrigal's courtroom. A defendant, Kelly Lynch, is there for what should be a completely straightforward status hearing. But what's about to go down is anything but ordinary. And right here, this is the question that lights the fuse. Judge Madrigal, seemingly out of absolutely nowhere, turns to the defendant, Kelly Lynch, and asks, "Who the heck is Rusty?" Now, he's talking about her friend, a guy named Rusty Miller, who's been helping her prepare some of her legal paperwork. And just like that, you can feel the tension in the room just skyrocket. The judge's frustration completely boils over, and it ends with him literally screaming at the defendant to look at him. This has clearly gone way beyond a simple question. It's turned into a full-blown interrogation. And this is what makes the whole thing so bizarre. Rusty Miller isn't the defendant. He's not a lawyer on the case. He's not even physically in the courtroom. And yet, Judge Madrigal's attention becomes completely, and I mean aggressively, fixed on him. So with this question, Judge Madrigal is signaling a huge shift. He isn't just asking who Rusty is anymore. Oh no, he's about to reveal that he's done his own research, and he's getting ready to present his findings to the entire court. And then, the bombshell. The judge starts reading out a laundry list of charges from Rusty Miller's past. But here is the absolutely crucial point. This information came from Miller's sealed and expunged criminal history. It wasn't public. It had nothing to do with the case. It had no legal reason to be brought up in the hearing. The judge read private, legally protected information right into the public record. So how on earth did a routine hearing get so personal, so explosive? Well, to really understand that, we need to rewind the clock 16 months and take a look at the defendant's legal representation, and a key piece of evidence that was, it seems, totally ignored. Way back on June 6th, 2022, Kelly Lynch's own attorney, Jonathan Mills, gets evidence that she has a valid prescription, a prescription that could potentially get a major drug trafficking charge thrown out. But for the next 16 months, crickets. Nothing happens. The defense just sits on this potentially case-clearing evidence until October of 2023. And here's the moment it finally comes out. After a year and a half of silence, Attorney Mills stands up in court and admits it. Just imagine being the defendant, knowing this crucial piece of paper existed the whole time. You can see how this admission would cause a complete breakdown of trust. So Kelly Lynch, feeling like her own lawyer had totally failed her, decides to try and withdraw her plea. Now, this is a pretty standard legal move, but in this courtroom, it set off a bizarre and seemingly impossible series of procedural hurdles. What's wild is that the judge himself saw the problem. He actually said on the record that there was a built-in conflict now that Lynch was questioning her lawyer's work. You'd think that would lead to a careful, supportive process to fix it, right? Yeah. No. This is the procedural trap she was put in. Let's just walk through it. First, the court agrees her lawyer has a conflict. Second, her lawyer is told to withdraw immediately. Third, boom, she's left with no attorney. Fourth, the judge gives her only 19 days to file a complex legal motion. Fifth, she somehow manages to do it herself and she gets it in on time. And what's the result? The motion is completely thrown out. And here's the reason why. On November 3rd, the judge called her filing a legal nullity, basically legally worthless, because she filed it herself while she was technically waiting for a new lawyer. Think about that. She was ordered to meet a deadline she could only meet by acting without a lawyer, and then she was punished for acting without a lawyer. It was a total catch-22. And all of this frustration, this whole procedural mess, it all builds right back to that explosive November 16th hearing, with the defendant's motions thrown out and her friend Rusty Miller helping her document all these issues. The judge appears to take matters into his own hands. This brings us to a really critical legal idea: extrajudicial investigation. See, a judge is supposed to be a neutral referee. Their job is to rule only on the evidence that's presented to them in court. The second they start doing their own digging, they've crossed a fundamental line between judging and investigating. And incredibly, this is exactly what Judge Madrigal admitted to doing. He said right there in open court that he had used confidential law enforcement databases to research Rusty Miller. a private citizen. This is how he got that sealed criminal history we saw a minute ago. The judge then used what he found to accuse Miller of a felony, the unauthorized practice of law, claiming Miller had actually filed the motions himself. But then the prosecutor had to step in and correct him, pointing out that Miller likely only prepared the documents for Lynch to file herself, which, is a pretty key legal distinction. Okay, and now the story takes what is maybe its most ironic twist. Sometime after this hearing, Judge Madrigal himself gave a public presentation on the very legal principles that seem to be at the heart of this entire case. The topic of his big presentation? The Fourth Amendment, the part of the Constitution that protects all of us from unreasonable searches by the government. He was literally teaching the public about the importance of privacy in due process. The contrast here is just stunning. In his lecture, Judge Madrigal said, clear as day, people cannot search you without authority from a judge. Yet in his actual courtroom practice, he himself searched secure databases for information on a private citizen, with no warrant, no legal authority whatsoever. The very principle he was teaching was the one he appeared to have broken. So where did things go from there? Well, months after that chaotic hearing, the judge made another statement on the record that honestly sheds even more light on his possible motivations here. On February 23, 2024, Judge Madrigal directly blamed the delays in Kelly Lynch's case on Rusty Miller. He said it was because of Rusty filing stuff in my court file that she wasn't already in the Department of Corrections. The implication of that statement is just huge. The judge seems to be admitting out loud that his actions were a reaction to Miller helping expose all the procedural problems in his court. I mean, that sounds an awful lot like a retaliatory motive. And all of this leaves us with a really critical question. Our entire justice system is built on the idea of a neutral, impartial judge. But when that judge steps into the role of an investigator, maybe even motivated by personal frustration, who is left to guard the scales of justice?